Today is the third talk of this November 1983 7-day retreat. Most of the talk will be devoted to self, all these different ways we have of labeling it: self, the me, the ego, or the I. Maybe there will also be time to talk about wanting and fearing. The reason that this topic was chosen is not that I like to harp on it. Say it over and over again, or like to be negative about people. Sometimes someone will suggest that. That pointing things out is negativism. Why not say something positive? But it is that we bring it up. It's brought up in meetings all the time as what appears to be the obstacle in this work and in life, and a real yearning to shed light on it, to understand it, maybe to be free of it. But people do at times say listening to a talk is, sometimes I feel nausea. Hearing about all that. Another person said after hearing a talk, all I want to do is find a cross someplace to expiate. But if one doesn't run away but keeps looking, keeps observing and questioning, then one will find that this yearning for some kind of punishment to expiate the burden of guilt is more of the same. To be free of the guilt, free of this burden of ego, so that one can be free to do what? More of the same? The same all over? As one person put it, all there is, all I observe is selfishness. There isn't one instant that is not permeated with selfishness. Not one action that doesn't come out of self-centeredness. Can one see that? Or is there immediately, it mustn't be this way, I must get rid of it? That's the response of the self. So how does one listen to a talk like this, whatever will be coming out? There always is already a slight apprehension of what one will hear, a fear of looking. That's there. Most of the time one is so afraid to look. And therefore the organs of perception sort of contract or close. One doesn't hear at all. Maybe if we can point out that there is no need to identify with what is being said and seen in oneself as this is me. It is this constant process of identifying with this body, one's actions, one's looks, one's behavior, one's thoughts as my body, my looks, my actions, my thoughts, which may be one of the difficulties. If one was observing it in somebody else, it wouldn't be difficult at all. Can one observe within oneself without identification? Because that identification too is the activity of self. What is observed is what goes on, not just here where the observation takes place, but in all human beings, to some extent or other, unless a human being is completely, totally free of all of that. And where is such a human being? We don't know. So maybe if there's not this immediate compulsion to say this is me and I don't want to be like that, but rather to observe without identifying, as one observes a landscape or a cityscape, a slumscape or a seascape. As it is, then the openness of listening, and attending can be maintained. When a baby is born, it is given a name. Sometimes parents don't know till the last minute what name to give to the baby. Even not when it's born, something still hasn't occurred. And sometimes parents know ahead of time what name to give to the baby. One in case it's a boy, one in case it's a girl. There's an affinity for a name. One likes a name very much and wants to give that name to one's child. I knew one man who was very fond of George Frederick Handel and called his firstborn son George Frederick Handel Anderson. This is already something put onto a child, to say the least. There is in that the predilection of the parent and maybe a hope against hopes that baby Anderson will live up in some measure to his name. Something has been implanted. Because very quickly, the name in the mind of the parent, the sisters, brothers, teachers, friends, as well as in the mind of the child, is more than just a name, which is the function of which really is that if one has to address oneself to this particular person, not everybody else answers. One can communicate at a time there is need to communicate with one particular person, with that one by addressing him or her. I believe, I haven't thought this through at great length, but this is one of the prime functions of a name. But there's so much more put into it, and so much more associated with it by the child and the parent. The simple fact that the name and the body are identified. that child hears very early, even though it doesn't understand much verbiage yet, but it understands that the parents think it is beautiful, cute. How often parents say how cute he is when he does this or she does that, and either one doesn't realize that the child hears it, or the baby, or one doesn't think it matters. But it does build up images of oneself in the eyes of the onlooking elders or brothers and sisters. How one is regarded becomes an image. Because those who regard and act toward the child have an image of the child that goes hand in hand. And of themselves. Maybe if parents had no image of themselves, no image of a child, the child would also not pick up images in his early or her early life, left and right. But if one observes carefully, there is so many images. Already the image of I'm a father. Somebody recently told me it is such an awesome thought to think I'm going to be a father. What was all in the mind when this sentence was spoken? Was it maybe just the responsibility to take care? Or was there much more? The image of his father and his father's father and the image of fatherhood. Pride in that. The word already has certain vibrations. And I'm going to be that. It's something, a new husk I can slip into. Without that, just not knowing how it will respond. Leaving it open and responding to this newborn baby immediately as mine? Yeah, usually is my child, and the pride that comes with having fathered or mothered, given birth to this child is mine. And I will see to it that my child gets the right upbringing, the right food, the right education, right protection from whom? From other children who may not be brought up with the same manners, the same religion. Same ideas and ideals, same way of speaking. And a child who is, if one observes babies, little children, there's this openness, this total openness and vulnerability to anything. It will start conforming to images, introject them. At a certain age, introject maybe the image of the father and mother into himself. At that point, the father and mother don't have to say so much anymore. Don't do this and don't do that. It's been deeply recorded now, and when a little baby brother or sister arrives, one sounds just like the father and mother to that little baby brother and sister. Already before going to school, the child has heard how smart he is. He's given toys these days already. Little computers are given to the child. It's amazing. The whole toy scene has completely changed. The other day, my husband bought some ordinary wooden building blocks. And just looking at them and remembering all the various toys that come out of Benjamin's toy box. They all talk or speak or blink, beep. He loves it. And the hope of the parent, when he gets to school, he'll already be smart. He'll learn faster. He already knows that the cow says moo. There's one toy. You punch the cow and it says in a very distorted way. It's not a good record. It says moo. And what? What an accomplishment that he can say that. Parents test him. What does the cow say? Or what? But it's not the same sense of humor as an innocent bystander has. Parents take that seriously. They want the child to be really up on the latest and up with the other kids who know what a pig says or what. This is all on that scale, on that dial. Or a child is told that he's dumb. You may say, I don't say that. I would never say that to my child, but it is being said to children. You can hear it when you listen in supermarkets or stores, restaurants, how children are spoken to, how they are characterized and labeled by the parents. And the parents to a child are God. They are the giver of life and the possible withholder of life. So what they say counts. Totally. Up to a certain age. So my parent says I'm dumb, I'm dumb. Not as bright as brother or sister. It's the whole conditioning of what a little girl should be like, what a little boy should be like. I saw in front of our house a whole party of people. They were coming back from a swimming pool down the street. Parents and then some little children, and one boy hit a girl. They were little children clobbering each other, and the boy, just as he clobbered the girl, the father discovered that, and for the whole length of the street you could hear him. It was almost too painful to repeat how he beat his kid and pounded into him, you do not hit girls. And here he was hitting him. A little girl hit him. What does he learn? What images are built up at this moment? About girls, about fathers, about himself as a boy? Somehow or other, if you're big, you can be a hitter and a beater of men. But all this beating received for hitting a girl, somehow or other there must be a tremendous yearning to beat the girl again when the father's not around. And the girl learns a separate and sort of protected, supposed to be protected and different, not to partake in squabbles or fights. She wants to fight just as much as the boy does. And does when the parents aren't looking. So these double standards, these double images, what one is in the presence of authority and what one can be in the absence of authority. Or when physical strength mounts what one can be in the presence of authority, namely exactly what the authority does not want one to be. All of this, all of these contradictory images building up so early. And why do they build up? Is it that the parents create these newly, or is it that they pass on what was created in them when they were small by their parents and their elders, going back into the infinite past, at which time there weren't infinite numbers of people, there were very small groups of people, relatively small in comparison to this exploding population today. So it's not difficult to figure, with or without a computer, that we all come ultimately from the same stock. Same stock of behavior patterns. They're varied here and there, but the fact of training the young, training them with force or with bribe, installing images, because they're images in oneself, this is universal and as old as the stones. When he or she goes to school, new images of the bright learner, the achiever, or the one who is the mischief maker, the troublemaker in the class, or the slow child, or the retarded child. Also in this country, as well as in totalitarian countries, the flag hangs in each classroom. And there is, I believe there still is a pledge of allegiance to the flag every morning. One holds the hand, I guess, on the heart. A certain ritual gesture and a mumbling. It's cute to hear little children say this. They obviously don't know what they're saying. And who knows what is said there. One country under God and equality for all and all this kind of idealism installed into the child. In the name of a flag which is there, it's visually there. It becomes something, it becomes an image to which one dedicates oneself in a sort of a solemn moment every morning. My flag, however, happens not to be your flag. And there's a collision of dedications. How the other kids respond to one, whether one is popular. Image of being the popular girl or boy in the class, lots of friends, and the one who is unpopular. An image of being unpopular. A loner, not liked, maybe tricked by other kids, made a laughing stock, sometimes by the teachers too. Teacher wouldn't admit it, but it happens. Children are ridiculed or humiliated, and images of being no good. because the report card comes home and a frown on the parent's brow, if it's all F's or whatever those numbers are, letters here. The pain of disappointing the parent and the fear for one's security in that house where one is frowned upon for bad marks. You ought to do better. You can do better than that. Always the appeal to this entity in there which can behave, can shape up, can do what is demanded of him or her, and one does if the punishment is severe enough or the reward is pleasing enough. One just adjusts to that. But the feeling is there is someone inside who can change oneself. What this change actually amounts to is a change in behavior pattern. A new image maybe adopted. One inherits certain associations from one's parents, association with the church, with a political conviction, an economic identity, a social class. Or one may react and rebel against this and identify with a new religion, a new political movement, or a new social class, or a classless class. All identities, conceptual images, to sort of expand this little me, aggrandize it, or make it more secure with what seems to be securer entities than the ones that are there. No identity is secure. No image is secure. It's an image. Can be blown over by somebody strong who says, you're that, you're not this. And then one shakes. One doesn't know who one is. And seeks shelter in something that seems stable or comforting or strong. Strong in its defenses. Like a nationality. But it's the most unstable thing in this world these days is nationality. Because it's that which is constantly at war, nationality and religion. There may be peace here temporarily and then it flares up over there. And it flares up here. There's no peace. Because there are antagonistic identities which give shelter to insecure selves, insecure me's. The me being a feeling of being something separate from others, which has started so early, because you're this and you're that and you're that, in contradistinction to him or her who is this and this and this. One has not been left alone to grow up, to explore what comes up. A baby is rarely, there are parents these days are very sensitive and really try to move along with it. To allow the baby to explore I'm putting it in a way which doesn't happen, to acquaint itself, to be familiar with the feeling of anger or rage. Or it may not even be anger or rage. We may project this into the baby. Crying, wanting, and using every cell of the body to cry. I'm not saying let it cry so it can become familiar with it, but the feeling of guilt that the parent experiences, and maybe when the baby's little it's easy enough to put it to the breast, but the little boy or girl is told, don't be angry, or else you'll make mommy angry. He's made to feel it as a very unpleasant and unsettling emotion, so he cannot touch it, feel it, as something that comes up and also goes again. It's something bad. Going back to the baby, remember seeing a little baby, 2-3 days old, for the first time being given a sponge bath on a diaper table with a sponge, a little baby and a sponge. They're two incompatible things. And it screamed. It just screamed and kicked with everything. Little arms and legs, everything was in motion. And the father says, yeah, he's mad like me. He's got that inherited from me. And the mother too said, he really gets very mad when we wash him. He's cold. He's freezing. He's hurt by the sponge. He needs warmth, and the crying is no warmth, hardness, or whatever. Words, you just need to watch it. It's so clear. But by and by, it hears, I'm angry. I'm as angry and mad as my father. And an identity again grows up. I am that. Not free to feel this. Understand it, sort of, and let it disappear on its own, which anger does, or disagreeable, an expression of disagreeableness. The expression already is punished or muted. So there's an alienation in a little child from its natural functions, including sexual functions and so forth, alienation from that, and a build-up of an image of what a proper little child does and doesn't do. And that becomes the home, the second home. And the naturally functioning body is something to be controlled or ignored or denied or played with in secrecy. The split has occurred. What is acceptable is the conditioned behavior. And with this happens this separation from wholeness, the wholeness of being what one is. Being allowed to feel that and allowing it to disappear in the presence of what is needed, the food or the warm clothing. I need to say this because I've been misunderstood so much. People have thought I'm advocating leniency in bringing up children, or what's this other word in recent years? Permissiveness. Letting kids do what they want to do. If a parent observes very clearly, then it's no problem to say no. You don't have to say you're bad because you do it, or you're this and that. Just no. And if it doesn't become a battle of one image against the other, the mother wanting to maintain her image as an authority and a mother who should not be talked back to, sassed. If that image isn't there, and nothing has been instilled in the child, there can be communication and communion. Children are not less reasonable than adults. Are adults reasonable? We think we are, particularly when we condition and limit our children. We think we know what is right and wrong. What we usually are afraid of is what somebody else will think of us as a mother. She's got such brats. We don't like to have other people talk about it like this. So then when they seem to act bratty, we get sort of panicky and want to do something. So we stand clear among our neighbor mothers. All of this can be observed. And it's in the observation and in the really profound seeing of it that there can be a fundamental change of it. A freedom from patterns that inhabit one and control one and that one imposes upon children. So growing up at a very early age, it comes, this feeling of being someone separate from the others. From the others that can either provide companionship and security, friendliness or punishment or ridiculing, leaving one stand alone. Out of this feeling of separation come all of our desires for belonging or for becoming somebody who will then be liked, secure, have lots of money, lots of friends, lots of admirers, or excelling in some other way through intellectual feats. Having audiences as a performer. And none of this resolves this feeling of self, separate self, and isolation. And it doesn't resolve the craving to get away from this insecurity and fear of isolation. That is, as long as this feeling exists, the craving for something to drown it out or to distract oneself from it is maintained. But one may find as one achieves success, has things, it doesn't satisfy. Inner emptiness and feeling of alienation or separation is still there, as it was when one was a little person. And yet everything one does, as people so often talk about in meeting, everything one does seems to come out of this feeling of self. What I need to have, what I need to do for myself, what I need to be. One person said it's all politics. Every way I turn it's politics, meaning in this case power, a power game of winning, of lording it over others. He said, even with my small child. And oneself is that small child still, who was lorded over, dominated, pushed around, ordered around by a father who needed to do that because he never had it in his childhood. a freedom just to be as he was. It's an endless whirlpool, an endless current of selfishness, self-centeredness, and the attempts to escape from it, which are the same current, the same methods, the same goals, and the same discontent with it in the long run. And any promise is made by religion that there is a land or a realm in which there is no self or eternal bliss, paradise, that there is such a thing as enlightenment in which the self has been subdued. It's often not put this way. The self is uprooted. And all the methods suggested to get there, in so many religions, it's self-mortification, self-denial, practices to think of selflessness, to contemplate on non-self or selflessness. All of these, if one examines it, isn't there still the self in that, wanting to be no self, wanting to be rid of its burdens, not necessarily its pleasures? That's another matter. So our yearning for a savior or salvation or liberation is still motivated by self, the self that is alienated, apart and a part, wanting to be whole. But it's imagined. It's an imagined goal. And the striving for that goal is the same as striving for other things one has striven for to become secure or complete with possessions or power, clothes, women, men. One distrusts that, and now one is trying this avenue. And ambition, whether it's for power or whether it's for religious attainment, ambition generates tremendous energy. It's most of the time all the energy we know is the energy of ambition, of wishes, of wanting to get someplace, wanting to create something. Tremendous energies can be aroused with that. And often people say, what if I had no motive? I would have no energy. I have to have some motive to arouse energy. One assumes that energy can only be aroused by a motive and by a goal, which is a sheer assumption. It's our conditioned way of thinking. We've been brought up that way. And we have ample evidence for if there was a goal, luring and tremendous motivation to get there, there was energy. One knows that from experience. What one doesn't know is that there may be a vast, unlimited energy when there's no motive. No motive. Meaning no self. again does the question come up, how do I get to that? And who's asking it? Wanting it? To be freed from problems and frustrations of one's daily life? Or is it a question which one cannot help asking? Seeing the misery? Not escaping from it, but questioning it, questioning the self, the me, the who, and its motives. They are there to start out with. They're in evidence if one looks, if one doesn't deny or say, I don't need to know my motives. Can one start looking in all simplicity and openness and frankness at what's there? We always come back to the same question. Not wanting a special outcome, a special state to be reached. That's the goal of the me, projected, and then the energy garnered to get there, which is away from what is here. What is here is selfishness, self-centeredness, feelings of inadequacy, whatever. We don't have to label it to ourselves all the time. It's there in evidence. Is that all there is? We don't know. If we say it's all there is, we've made a conclusion which is based on no fact. We don't know. One may say, I'm just so sick and tired of coming face to face with this selfishness, with images of myself, with ideas. But it's there. It can be seen. Is the seeing the me, wanting it to be different? Ready with new images? Or is it simple seeing of selfishness? Simple seeing of a selfish image that comes up. I am this. Aren't I terrific? Or whatever. Aren't I horrible? It's the same thing. Is it possible to see what goes on from moment to moment as it is in silence, with a mind that no longer thrashes about to do something about what is seen? It's the usual way to think about how could I do it different, how could I manipulate it, change it. It's the activity of self. What is this silence in which there's no thrashing about, no trying to do anything about anything, just not knowing, and therefore in touch with what is, therefore being that? The words never quite get it, but if you're there right now, you understand. not expecting something to come from it. Expectation is images of the me. Just what is there? And this vast silence. Not knowing. Not knowing what to do about it, and therefore not doing. Not knowing. Mu means I don't know. Who am I means I don't know. What is it means just that. What is it? I don't know. And I don't know the result. I don't. In such questioning, the mind does become silent. Thoughts come in and out. They come in and out in silence. The silence of no opposition, no objection, no resistance. Just there's no resistance to the drops on the porch. If no pictures are made of what one wants to attain or to be, no pictures. Just what's here. And I don't know what that is. It's there, to be felt, to be heard, to be. Then what is there? In this, are you different from me? Are we different from each other? When the mind starts up, let it start up. What is it? Who or mu? No opposition, no fight. Just mu or who? A place you imagine to get is an image. Fabricated by the me. Is mu an image or who? Or is it just mu or who? Not knowing. Or just attending, just questioning. Is there someone in the middle? As a part watching, looking in? Or is it just walk, walk, walk? Who's there to start anything? Who's there to stop anything? We will end here for today.